There are stories about every hero, how they became great. Most have one thing in common. Their bodies moved before they had a chance to think, almost on their own.
Across our short reign over this planet, we humans have accomplished incredible things. We've sent people to space, invented the internet, created cars, planes, VTubers. It's hard to comprehend just how much we've done in such little time. But why is it that we alone go above and beyond to accomplish seemingly impossible things? What drives humans to go further than simply staying alive? Well, the answer to this can be found in the concept of heroes. Growing up, we all have our own heroes, people who we look up to and idolize. These could be your parents, teachers, or even fictional characters. Heroes give us something to strive towards, and the ideals that they represent often become core values that we carry with us for the rest of our lives. Over the span of my own life, I have been inspired by countless heroes, each one changing the trajectory of my life in their own unique way. There is one show, however, that struck a chord within me like no other piece of media ever had before. A show that taught a timid young Goombas that his dreams could become a reality. A show that, when I was lost, gave me exactly what I needed. Inspiration. Being part of Gen Z, many of those around me seem to have accepted that we're doomed, and it gets harder and harder to lead a happy life with so much negativity around. But despite all this, I still refuse to give in to this pessimism. And for some reason, I'm still fighting with everything I've got. Because looking back, I remember the exact scene that lit a fire beneath me. A fire that's burnt with enough passion to keep me giving it my all even to this day. Back then, the thing I wanted someone to say, the words I needed to hear were, "Young man, you too can become a hero." Oh, and I forgot to mention that this is the story of how My Hero Academia changed my life. I spent 5 days making that intro! Anyways, now that the anime's finally come to an end, I can proudly say that, yeah, it was peak. In particular, I'm mostly referring to the final season because by god was it a spectacle. Studio Bones really stepped up to the task. The animation, music, sound effects, voice acting, it was all mwah, chef's kiss. Anyways, I could just sit here and glaze the final season for an hour, but who wants to listen to that? This video, I plan to just give you a quick rundown of kind of the overall cultural impact of the show and its impact on me personally, because I don't know, that's kind of what I do here. As a long-time My Hero fan, I've identified like 4 pretty distinct eras across the series runtime, and starting us off, I'll first focus on what I like to call the Golden Age. Back in 2016 when the anime first aired, it got a bit of traction, but it really blew up around 2017 to 18 with the releases of the 2nd and 3rd season. This is also when I got into the show as a relatively new anime fan. How did the show get so popular? I don't know, it's like vanilla ice cream. The plot was simple and rather generic, but come on, the medium's no stranger to these kinds of shows, and anime's biggest IPs have always been these typical battle shonen kind of series, which I'm not going to comment on because I value my life, and because not every show needs to have my neurons working on overdrive. Remember, simple does not always equal shallow. What these kinds of shows do excel at are getting the adrenaline pumping, delivering hype, and giving people motivation, which My Hero absolutely does. The MC was a relatable underdog, and All Might was the kind of mentor anybody could love, some more than others. I was always really competitive growing up, but seeing Deku, this kid with 0 powers, give his all to catch up to everyone else, gave me the motivation to be even more competitive, and I'm sure many of the people watching the show also felt pretty inspired by his efforts. Next up, following My Hero's initial boom in viewership, we have what I like to call the Dark Age. The series hit its absolute peak of popularity towards the end of 2019, and going into lockdown in 2020, the fandom activity only skyrocketed, especially on platforms like TikTok. With more people chronically online than ever, this era gave birth to a lot of
I can't believe I'm gonna have a baby with Todoroki.
Before long, the My Hero fandom became a cesspool of shipping, role-playing, things of that nature. Now, I'm a firm believer that everyone should be entitled to do what makes them happy, but when things go too far, you should expect repercussions, and oh boy, was I sad to see that the show I loved was facing some serious repercussions! The fandom very quickly became one of the most hated within the entire anime community, and even people who enjoyed the show started turning their backs on the series simply due to the sheer negativity it gathered. A lackluster season 5 also didn't help with this. Thankfully, I'm not that much of an unk to have been around for the era in which being an anime fan got you crucified, but even during the pre/mid-pandemic era, it was still considered cringe, at least in my high school, to be an anime fan. And because of how mainstream anime was becoming, everyone knew about My Hero, and it kind of became a thing to shit on the series and its fans. As much as I loved the show, I did not want to get bullied yet. So unless I was with my very small circle of weeb friends, I kept my mouth shut. And got bullied anyway. Fast forward a bit to 2022, and I don't want to say the show fell off, but a lot of fans had already sent in their resignation letters. Many had dropped the show after season 5, but there were still some loyal fans like myself who hoped that one day it could be restored to its former glory. Although the hype for the show did die down, thankfully, so did the hate. Obviously it was still around, but the community had kind of grown out of its hating on My Hero phase because, well, everyone just grew up, I guess. It's kind of crazy to think that I started the show just before I turned 12, and by season 7, I was an adult. So yeah, I'm pretty committed, guys. I put more effort into these videos than I do into my degree. I don't want any laughing allegations. Anyways, by the end of season 7, My Hero had gotten a lot of hype back, and we were now onto the real endgame of the series. Putting aside its rocky history, particularly the fanbase, My Hero was ultimately still a massively beloved cultural phenomenon, and most people you ask would say it was still a great show at the end of the day. All that was left was to see if it could stick its landing. 2025, it absolutely did stick its landing! With season 8 being the finale, many fans were of course excited to see how their beloved show would come to an end. And whilst everybody did have high expectations for the arc, I don't think anybody was prepared for the absolute masterclass that was about to be presented. Unlike another show airing at the time, My Hero fans were eating good with some phenomenal animation, but visuals alone weren't what carried this season. Whilst yes, it was pretty to look at, what made this final arc so impactful was what was happening narratively. Regardless of the outcome, this battle would be the end of an era. Everything that the series had built up now rested on the shoulders of this final battle. And the part that made me realize just how invested the season had me was when I was forced to watch the final moments of my greatest hero. If I had to rank all my fictional idols, All Might would probably be up there on the podium. After all, he was the one who taught all of us how to go beyond. I showed it briefly before, but I've had this poster of All Might up on my wall ever since I was 12, and it has remained as my beacon of inspiration to this day. And it's signed by Chris Sabat. Oh. So yeah, All Might meant a lot to me. And in that tragic, decisive moment, I wasn't just some bum watching a made-up story in my room. Well, I was, but I felt like one of those people in that crowd, holding on to some hope that the man who changed my life could make it out with his. When I watch shows, I get really invested. I scream, I get hype, but I almost never cry, and I've been like this my whole life. I had a whole phase where I just binged sad shows because I wanted to cry and nothing worked. But this was not the case. I was bawling! Not just my eyes were getting moist, no, I was full on ugly crying like Deku. Maybe I've just gotten old and soft, I don't know, but losing All Might felt like saying goodbye to a piece of my childhood, you know? Ugh, whatever. He gets saved, and even though I knew it was probably gonna happen, I bawled regardless. We get some more spectacular fight scenes, and eventually we reach the series climax. In this final sequence, we are given something beautiful. Not just a fight, but a moment that embodies everything that My Hero Academia represents. Standing against the face of all evil, Deku is barely hanging on to the embers of his power. He's bruised, bloodied, wait, where'd his arms go? But alone?
On your left.
Absolutely not! For years society needed a symbol, and for a long time that was All Might. But he alone shone so brightly that we were blinded to realize that one man can't uphold society on his own. What keeps the society functioning is the combined efforts of everyone! This isn't a story about the chosen, it's a story about the ordinary, and the greatness that we can achieve by helping one another. Friends, classmates, teachers, rivals, civilians, each and every one of them reached out their hands to push Deku forward. And it is here that I realized why Deku really is the embodiment of heroism. Yes, beating the symbol of evil would root his name in history, but what makes Deku great isn't his victories, it's what he's willing to lose! The reason why everyone supports him, why we believe in him, is because from the very beginning of the show, nothing he ever did was for himself. It was never about quirks, fame, or recognition. All he ever wanted was to save people! And to do this, he was willing to sacrifice everything. His power, his dream, he was ready to throw that all away! Because what really matters to Deku is that everyone gets the help that they need. Even his enemies. There's people beyond saving. There's goals beyond achieving. When life beats you down, it's hard not to feel powerless. But that's not what this show taught us! Your body moves before you have a chance to think. Being a hero isn't about your power, it's about taking action!
Since that day, you've been the greatest hero that I've ever known.
Throughout anime history, there have been a handful of shows largely responsible for motivating and uplifting each generation of fans. And I have no doubts that My Hero Academia will go down as the premier shonen that defines this new gen era. Lately, I've been seeing that Gen Z has no hope for the future. But believe me, even if it feels like our fate is already decided, even if it feels like it's set in stone, we can smash that future! So clench your butt cheeks, kid, and yell this from the depths of your heart! Smash!
Is it possible to become a hero even if I don't have a heart? Your quirk, not his!
Do you think I can be a hero too?
Well, that's that. Sorry about my super slow upload schedule, I've just been really busy as of late. Regardless, I still put a lot of effort into this one, so if you thought it was cool or maybe you got something out of it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. I'm still learning and experimenting with stuff, and I might incorporate some more art into these videos, like this cool avatar I drew. He's only got like 2 expressions right now, but he'll get more if I don't scrap him. Anyways, I'll try my absolute best to pump out more content at a faster rate whilst also keeping it at a quality that I'm happy with. That's it. I'll see y'all next time. Maybe. Peace. Oh, and never forget, you too can become a hero.